Folks, if you are just tuning in and you've never heard the name Flash before, you should make a note of this guy. Look pretty damn decent in the team tournament. He's actually a top 10 person in the team rank department, and he's also top 10 in the solos right now. In fact, he's ranked number 9th in the world. Let's see what we can do against Give You Anxiety. A classic name, one we're all too familiar with, but a guy who's lingering down an 80th. You know, it's not as hot as what Flash has achieved, and well, it looks like we are going to be taking the Lipany for this, which is where you would give an edge usually to the Abbasids. Right, a decent map for them. Has always historically been a good map for Delhi Rabassus due to the extra berries that spawn and the tight formation of trees plus mountain size that you get. Because the importance of this is it allows you to more easily structure your base and get away with more greedy approaches because it's more defendable. However, on the other side, Flash has gone for his signature Civ. I think it would be fair to say that this is Flash's signature Civ at this point. I don't think he'd disagree with that either. I lose count of the amount of times I see this guy play Mongol. He's been doing it since the early days. Even in the tournament play, I think he was always the Mongol player for his team. And for good reason. Like, his timings are really on point. He has some interesting deviations. Like, I love the way he kind of mutates his 10, 15-minute timings compared to a few other Mongol players and mixes in some more feudal aggression on certain maps and configurations. Let's see what he's going to do in a 1v1, though. Definitely feels like the type of situation where you could choose to be more aggressive. But the cool thing we've been seeing is, for a lot of players, the Abbasids are... they're kind of a joke right now. People are not impressed with what the Abbasids are cooking. This Civ went from being S tier, best tier, to, you know, kind of underwhelming, pitiful, god to dog, essentially. Right? I'd say a lot of people see this as like a bottom 2, if not bottom 3 Civ in the game right now. And a big hit was the changes to TCs. TC booming got heavily crippled. The build times as well as the resource investment slowed down the Abbasids, set back the powerful 18, 19-minute timer, and essentially allowed these kind of Castle Age boomy type builds to come through ahead of them, right? Because if you think of what Flash could do in this game, Flash could go for like, what, let's say 10, 11 minutes in his Castle Age. That's a very big window the Abbasids have to wait to have a feudal army online that the Mongol player could then be building lances or mass men-at-arms or crossbows into creeping siege. And that's very scary for the Abbasids, because if you do go for that multi-TC approach, which has been delayed anyway, and then you still look to Castle Age yourself, it sets you back. Compared to the old build, I think you've been set back like, I want to say 2 minutes. It's not a small amount of time, folks. Might even be more than 2 minutes when you consider the extra build speed required on those TCs. But opening up, we are going to see your typical Mongol movement. Oh, the disgusting things these people do. The things these people will do for money. I know, I know what I just made them sound like, but Mongol players, they are a breed their own. Outpost is going to come in. We'll block out the gold and the stone. Notice there is no panic move from Flash, though, for good reason. Flash has got a retracted gold and stone spawn behind. So if you don't block this out as well, you're not going to get much pressure off of this play. My, my. Give You Anxiety definitely has no reason to come out anytime soon. 16 sheep is incredibly impressive on Lipany. That must leave Flash with about 8. Not even 8. He has 5. He's down to 5 already, folks. And I think some of them not even at home right now. No, yeah, 3 of them aren't even at home right now. So that's very problematic. It means that Flash is either going to have to go and build pastures very early or switch on the berry bushes. Either option, not desirable here. It delays your own timings and will offer up opportunities to Give You Anxiety. And let's see what Give You Anxiety does with that opportunity. It's going to be the archery range opening. Makes a lot of sense, right? You're up against spears on the opening because of the outpost rush, so you have the counter. Also, building an archery range into one archer will allow you to build that ram, which will get rid of any annoying outpost coming your way. It's interesting that Flash has completely just pulled back now. I mean, he did invest in the racks, right? So it's not like the goal was to jabate your opponent and just build an outpost for free. He clearly had intent on his mind, but didn't really get the value he was looking for. I imagine what happened is Flash felt confident about the play, built up those 4 spearmen, and then he scattered around the back. We saw the Khan running past here about 10, 15 seconds earlier. I think that's what occurred, is that he didn't realize there was safe resources behind. So tilting as well. I mean, it really is the nature of map generation sometimes. And it's why I think we see players less all-in on outpost rushes Outpost plays are now seen as more of an element to success, if that makes sense, right? Like, I'm going to do this play to delay you by more time. If this takes me a minute to do, my goal is to milk 2 minutes of delay on you. Gone are the days of a million outposts going up on wood lines, it feels like. For good reason. Definitely not the tankiest things anymore. Oh man, that idle time? That's definitely going to add up. I think that was, what, 5 seconds? And then on top of that, he clubs the sheep with everyone. Remember, that's just, what, 3 sheep he brought in? With 13 villagers working at it. That's going to last you about maybe 2 minutes if you're lucky. So he will have to hard switch onto the wood to get the pastures ready. Give you anxiety in the meantime, is getting wood for a different reason. It's not because he's a kinky boy, it's because he wants to go into the archer comp. We are seeing archers plus the camels hit the field. Stables also being added in. Yeah, so this is going to be one of your classic kind of Abbasid builds. Right, one side is going to build into horsemen, and you're in the Abbasid play on the other side. You've got a smile on your face, because if you just build one camel archer and then get into horseman yourself, you've mitigated 20% of the damage that front line's going to put out. Flash with spears and horsemen alone, man. This is going to be a tough one to breach. But you can see that Flash has the right idea, right? He needs to play pressure. He also needs to play budgeted wood, because he needs all that surplus wood to now rush pastures. In fact, I would really like to see the pastures being built up already. The fact that he's still waiting is dangerous, because he's going to drain his food. Oh. Okay, yeah, okay, he did have them out. He just sent them over the Uvu. All right, okay, I respect this play. This is something we forget that Mongol players can do, because quite often when they have to go for pastures, they have lost map control to a certain extent. But that's not the case here, right? Giving Anxiety is yet to come out of his base, which means that Flash can get away with playing pastures away from base. The reason that this is usually a bad idea, I think we have a replay on the YouTube channel between Kazva and Kalp that I would recommend checking out that will give you a pristine reason why. In that game, Kalp tried to do long pasture, and there were just sheep carcasses in the center here constantly. It was not pretty to look at. Giving Anxiety. He's actually going mass camel archers. An interesting idea. It will give him mobility over going for normal archers. That high base damage will be effective against the horsemen. Something he's putting to work now. Looks like we'll be a chase back for the time being. Not much here to now raid in. It's Giving Anxiety is doing a good job of essentially... What's the word I'm looking for? He's essentially just pushing Flash around like a sheepdog, right? He's herding him. That's the one. My concern right now is Flash is just... He needs a Castle Age, right? Like, with this build that you've gone for and Giving Anxiety's commitment, you kind of need Castle Age, but what are you going to build when you get there? You're up against Camel Archers, Men-at-Arms won't work. You could try to go crossbows, but you could just build Archers now to deal with this. I think the issue I see for Flash is because he didn't get enough sheep, and now you're going to need more pastures, going into anything feels difficult. Even if you go into Archers, you still need the front line, so you need additional food. One pasture is not going to cut it. Even if you just want to get archers, you still need food from these pastures. Problematic as the raid is going to come in. I mean, this game, it's rough, but I think the only way I can truly summarize this game is sheep. Okay, there's Flash's play. We missed that. I'm an idiot. He went for the secondary TC. This is much better than the pastures. I'm now happy. I'm a lot happier about his state in this game. Apologies. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I don't know how I didn't see that. This is actually a really big deal. On the deer stack as well, the fact that it got snuck up without being seen is huge. Because now, Giving Anxiety is heavily discounted. He went max into the Camel Archers, right? He went 5. He's producing an extra 2. Yes, he's got the Horsemen, but primarily it's Camel Archers. These cannot dive static point defenses. I love the fact in the meantime, Flash is going to take a small groups of Horsemen and start to idle eco up in Giving Anxiety's base. Remember, GUA, although this looked like a strong start, he is playing 1 TC Abbasids. And funnily enough, this really kind of embodies the Abbasids right now. The opponent has more TCs than the Abbasid player. Oh, it's a rough time for him. Someone's trying to argue that GUA can ram this down. He sort of can. He has very limited units to build. I love the fact that we're thinking GUA, it's got to be rams, but he does have very limited numbers of units to build rams with. Usually, like when we see Give You Anxiety and we know he's a ram fetishist, he's got like 30 archers and 20 spears and it's time to go. This is camel archers and horsemen. It's a very different type of comp. The reason you might not want to necessarily build rams is A, when you go for a dynamic comp, you don't want to be anchored down, essentially, by this investment. Sorry, I'm going to switch their names around, by the way. By this investment into rams, because it stops you from moving around. Element 2 is you're doing it against the Mongols. What do Mongol players do when they see a ram? They leave. It's the only civ that can just leave of the buildings as well. Fortunate detail for Give You Anxiety is there's nowhere easily for Flash to leave here. So Flash will need to fight, which is why he's massing on the archers and the horsemen now. One ram is not going to pressure this fast though, folks. Don't get too excited. Okay, that will pressure hard though. That's going to force a fight. Flash needs to go. Start to poke on the backside. Rams committing onto this. Villagers will need to assist. Repairs are going to come out. Clash occurs on the east side here. Ram is going to pull away. Archers are going to be exposed. Give You Anxiety with the wraparound. Pathfinding not to their favor. Flash needs to get out. He's going to lose a third of the army as a result of that, though. Good trade from Give You Anxiety. Forcing the pressure to force the engagement that he wants. The heavy injuries on all his front line. That front line ever goes down. These archers are not going to last long. They are essentially glass cannons. That's when the archers are training them out now. Back away. More villagers being idled up. The food is completely unlocked, though. Notice the pressure has now moved onto the primary base. This dive will not be able to last indefinitely, but it will find decent eco value. Let's Give You Anxiety begins to snipe. Pull away, but at the end of the day, like I'm looking at the numbers, I feel a lot better about Flash's initial trades. Give You Anxiety has a clear lead in army value, but he has not stopped the food gathering. That being said, the food gathering might stop itself unless he pulls the boar next. Give You Anxiety now with the second ram. A very slow ram at that as well, remember. He hasn't got many frontline troops left. Most of them got sacrifices, primarily just camel archers. And this is why I don't feel that great about GA's position yet, is if Flash just now re-bulks into archers, he kills this army. Give You Anxiety needs to make sure that he balances his comp and brings additional spearmen out as a front line. Not to mention the horsemen. It's like it's going to be Pumba time. Interestingly enough, Flash did not pull the board towards the TC at all. So not most optimal, but I guess in a way this keeps him further away from the raid-in that just feels inevitable at this stage. GUA. I mean, these camel archers, it's what I was talking about. Like, the camel archer, why we don't see it very often at the start of the game is it's very pricey. You have to be very delicate about the way you proceed. It's why I like the ram play, but at the same time, you know, if you have to rely on rams for the next step, camels feel heavily discounted unless your opponent is massing horsemen. I dare say that, you know, as long as Flash just builds a lot of archers and has a small front line, he'll hold. We'll see what GUA can do. Still only one TC this whole time. Villagers are now being pulled. He's running out of resources at home, so he needs to extend. Has at least got the wheelbarrow to make that quicker. It's like it's going to be a trip ram play. People are asking which wing was it. It was the eco wing. Always is the eco wing, it feels like. Definitely land maps anyway. And what a sneak away from Flash. He gets out just in time. He leaves the villagers behind to gather on the boar. We'll retreat away now. Could even set up in the berries in the western corner. It's not really an area that GUA necessarily wants to go to. That slivery snake, dude, Flash. In a flash, gets out. That's important. TC is now going to pack up, move back home. More patches will be needed, but now he has double TC fire. This is something that camel archers cannot dive into. I mean, I gotta give him so much credit for that. Like, the vision factor as well. GUA, he would have just missed out on having vision of that by a small margin. Because remember, GUA, his scout wasn't here. His scout is out and about. I mean, I don't really know what the hell his scout is doing right now. I can't even find him. He's definitely not here where he's needed most. No, he was back here at the Stealth Forest. Raiden, Clash comes in, trying to use that choke point to maximize ranged units with minimum melee. Rams are going to start to assault in, but remember, they've got a heavy target ahead of them. That's the primary town center. And Archers in this choke point will be able to hold. Notice that the start attack back from Flash is allowing him to keep the lead. Camel Archer count, holding for the moment, but won't hold indefinitely. Not with the production on the side of Flash. Remember, these Camel Archers, every single one going down, it's free to the cost of one when you compare them to Archers. A heavy loss, and just like that, give you anxiety. Look at the destroyed value. Flash now killing 2.5k more value and evening them up in terms of full army value. Remember, a decent amount of that army value remaining for Give You Anxiety is in Rams. Feels like it wouldn't be a GWA game if we didn't say Rams. But these Rams have not found the value they were looking for. A heavy investment and a heavy loss. And now things get worrisome, because if Flash comes out of his base, if he starts to play mid-map aggression, Give You Anxiety has played Pocket Eco. And that's why Give You Anxiety has to keep investing in cavalry, because he needs to have map control inside. Why is this a problem? Because Flash doesn't necessarily need to come out. He's got enough resources left at home that he could easily just boom up pastures and go for Castle Age. And because of that heavy hit to Give You Anxiety's army, there is not really much he can do to stop that. Flash, instead, is clearly looking for a timing attack now. Spears and Archers being massed. By 20 minutes, he wants to be out of his base, heading towards GUA's. GUA, in the meantime, is going to continue to head into the base of the Mongols. We'll be able to target a few villages down, snipe one or two out. Just trying to keep Flash on his toes. Flash, who, by the way, still has this outpost right outside his opponent's base, which I don't like that this was allowed this whole time. Actually, that's pretty crazy. The Give You Anxiety allowed this. That's a lot of information that's been given, because that's spotted the move out onto Pocket Ecos on both sides. It's also been spotting any change that GUA's had in his comp. Flash is getting way too much information from this, and I'm very surprised Give You Anxiety is allowed it this long. Ain't no mistake about it, folks. Info wins games, and this is the MVP in that category. Raid on backside does look good from GUA, though. And Flash, interesting choice. He's going Magadai. Would not have expected this. It might be a misclick. That's a possibility. That'd be a very weird misclick. Q or R. He could have custom keybinds, though. The raid's in. He finally dealt with that outpost, but too late. So he's going to go down. So the Boogaloo will not be there. Flash will not have the Yam on the offensive. He got Vital Info. He knows about the villages, and they have started to be targeted out. As Flash will split up to look for clues like the Scooby-Doo gang. Not home. Eco is mostly unharassed. Just a small group of Camel Archers remain. Not enough to get any serious damage done here. Archers and Spears moving in. Brace comes out. Oh no, GUA. He walks into a trap. 4 horsemen gone just like that. That's going to be 480 resources down the drain. GUA will look to move out west. Needs to get those berries. Flash, in the meantime, will continue to find small groups of villagers running around like headless chickens. Flash, now in a situation where he could easily go for Castle Age. We can keep up the pressure. Looks like he's reinvesting for the time being, but his economy is getting strong enough that it could easily cruise towards Castle while continuing to build into this force. This is dangerous as well. Oh, no, no. Give You Anxiety's been spotted. That go just gave all the info over to Flash. And that's instantly, you see the move. He's on his way. Give You Anxiety. He can't feel comfortable being here. He knows what's coming. There is no way you park up here next to a Gur and don't know what's coming. The problem as well is one outpost is not going to protect you in this area. Horseman army is on the move. Interesting choice. Flash doesn't look to intercept. Only a few horsemen are going to march across. Shivs are going to come out. They'll stand their ground, I believe. No textiles are here, so potential to kill, but micro a little bit off. Flash sees an opportunity. It's time to go. He says, you know what is beautiful is when you play against Give You Anxiety and you kick his ass with rams. That's what he's looking to do now. Double ram play. Small group of camels that have left over are still continuing to raid. Flash shrugs it off, remember. He has 2 TCs. 1 villager dying a minute or half a minute is no biggie for him. It's time for some ramification. Flash says, if you are not going to defend, I will make sure there is nothing left to defend. Horseman raid now coming in. Flash. Double outpost goes up, but he retreats fully away. Spears are being built at home. Problematic. Give You Anxiety. He needs eco value. Needs it fast. Production builds are being assaulted now. Horseman being baited in by the spears. Give You Anxiety needs more. Denying gold is not good enough. It seems he was paranoid about the potential for a tech up, but Flash had no interest in that. He's looking to kill. He didn't come just for the frills. Eco is still being gathered outside the base for Give You Anxiety. That's his one upside. He's nowhere near ready for a tech up, though. Isn't playing for it either. He needs more army. He needs it fast. Second wave has been built at home. Flash is going to look to move in to defend this. Rams are going to be fine. Pincer maneuver on the way. Give You Anxiety will spot out a small group of archers, but that is now going to tip off what's on the way. Second wave is also now coming from Flash. He has a lot of spearmen. Has to be said, there is really no clear count to these spears right now. Archer count for Give You Anxiety is a grand total of 2. 8 camel archers. He has no way of taking a direct fight. You have to wonder, what is Give You Anxiety's plan at this stage? I think he was relying on wood. He needed more wood. Look at his food. He's not building anything. He needs to get onto the wood fast. New lumber camp gets built. He's at risk of being housed at this rate, though. My God, the way this is being played by Flash, Give You Anxiety has no reprieve. He has no way of recovering from this easily. He's gathering wood in the western corner. He's still housed in the situation. Horseman raid will commence into the base. More damage now being done to the Abbasses. Look at that heavy hit with the ram wave. Going to force the fight. TC is not going to push him back. Spearman wave is big enough. Flash goes in for the full commit. This is where GUA needs to be at home. Instead, these horsemen are away on foreign affairs. Double outpost plus spears will keep him at bay. This is done. GUA, he has nothing. No production. 0 buildings to build with. Just 1 archer range on the backside. His gathering rate is gone. His House of Wisdom is down. Final assault onto the TC. He needs to defend right now. But this spearman ball is just too big. I think he's done it. Flash. Great defense into a pivot play. He gave GUA the rope, and GUA now is pushing rope. No easy way to defend this. It felt like the moment that TC snuck back to base, Flash was confident about every step he needed to take in this game. And the final step will be pressing his boot down on the neck of GUA. The cries, the death cries of a million Abbasid villagers seems fitting to end this one. Horsemen finally make their way back home. Spearman count is being shrunk somewhat, but the horseman count is no longer high enough. Flash, with the Rams, still continuing on here. We'll be able to close this out. GUA beaten with an OD of his own medicine. Oh my goodness. That is a prime lesson in tempered defense. That pivot by Flash from Greed to Assassin's Creed was so clean and so pivotal as well. I mean, Give You Anxiety, he went for a premium army, and I love the fact that Flash respected the lack of imminent doom here. The greed of going for a second TC is offset by the greed of going for Camel Archers. It doesn't give GUA a clear timing, and although he gets in these Rams, the fact that he was never able to fully commit and find that town center made it a moot detail. He essentially invested as much in Rams as was invested in a town center in this game and found no value for it. Just great read by Flash and patience to reach that later timing where his economy would carry him through the rest of this game.